Fired up footballers, James and Jeffrey here with you as per usual with another post game. Kind of got a little double duty, but not really. We didn't cover the loss in the U.S. Open Cup to Philadelphia, the 3-0.
We were busy, sorry.
And it was also crushing. That's basically the end of most competition, the chance at trophies.
3-0 loss to Philly.
And so U.S. Open Cup, they're going to go on and play...
I believe Houston?
Houston. I believe down in Houston. It would have been at Chicago if they won. Disappointing. And going into this game, another loss. That will mark 8 losses in a row in all competitions, 7 losses in a row in just MLS competitions. The loss, though, they put in a great effort. 1-0 loss to New York Red Bull. Is that all I got to cover there? Yeah.
But just 1-0 loss. I mean, it was pretty much a boring game. Pretty boring game. I mean, the Fire were in it. They worked hard. They were organized that first half, and then that second half, they kind of let one get away from them. So, yeah.
Effort-wise, they were in the game the entire match, and the goal didn't come till, second half?
I don't think they ever really broke down New York at all.
New York was having trouble breaking down the Fire equally, but it seemed like a game of half chances and quarter chances. Quarter chances for the Fire, half chances for New York. Let's run down these stats real quick. 52% possession for the Chicago Fire, 47% to New York. So Chicago had a majority of the possession, but they just really weren't threatening with it.
No.
447 passes for Chicago, 404 for New York. Pretty good. A lot of passes. They were trying to make things work, but it didn't really culminate with anything. 74% pass accuracy for Chicago, 71% to New York. 17 crosses to 13 crosses. 17 crosses.
Hey, I like Chicago. That 17 crosses. I've always been saying they need more crosses. But around 20 would be nice.
But did anything come up from it? Not really.
I think Nico had a couple header opportunities, but like you said, half chances, more half chances.
Quarter chances. 5 corners to 2 for New York. A couple more corners. 6 shots for Chicago, 7 for New York.
6 boring games. 6 and 7 shots.
Yeah.
Our little brother. We brought our little brother, and he actually was falling asleep by the end of the game.
Yeah. He was interested, but then those darn lemonade vodkas. Shots on target, 1 for Chicago, 1 for New York, 3 for New York, 3 more shots, and for BWP, just like Nikolic, they're both poachers in the box, and Nico really didn't get too much to work with. BWP had 1 chance to work with.
Right on the 6, and he just good little finish there.
Poked it in. 2 saves for Chicago and Richard Sanchez. 1 save for Nick Robles in net for New York.
So how many total shots on goal?
6 for Chicago.
4 total? No, shots on target.
Shots on target. 1 to 3. 4 total. 1 to 3. So
it was a boring game. It was a very boring match. I mean, both teams were organized. Their defensive blocks, they were shifting, and unfortunately, the Fire got picked apart once, and they really couldn't generate much at all. I mean, when Nico and Katai came in around that 60th minute, New York had that high line, and they kept trying to slip Nico and Katai in, but a couple times they're offsides, and they generated a little bit there. But, yeah, I mean, that was really it.
First 20 minutes really felt like a playoff atmosphere.
It did. It was a lot of energy.
For both teams, because both teams were going hard and playing some of the hardest football we've seen in that stadium this season.
And the ref was kind of letting them be a little chippy, so...
and he missed a couple calls, in my opinion. He should have pulled his yellow card out maybe a little sooner.
What else you got?
47 aerial duels won by Chicago to 76 for New York.
Wow, that's the highest number we've seen by far.
That's a lot of aerial duels won, almost double. 18 fouls to 9 fouls and 2 yellow cards to 4 yellow cards for New York. So New York did get a couple cards, but... they were a little too late. They should have been handed out a little bit earlier to rein that game in.
Yeah, and you want to say the starting lineup real quick? Because it was very unique.
When I pointed out to you, I was like, you're not going to even guess the starting lineup.
I couldn't guess.
Starting with Richard Sanchez in the back, it was the 3 in the back system with Brandon Vincent, Schweinsteiger, and Kappelhoff as your 3 main center backs. You had Corrales out at left back. You had Nico Hasler out at right back. And then making a surprise start in center mid was Drew Connor, along with Dax McCarty right there. Playing the cam role on the right was Brant Bronico. Playing the cam role on the right, on the left was Raheem Edwards. And starting striker, surprise, surprise, was Lucho Solaniak.
But I was never a big fan of Basti in the back. I think this was the best game they played with Basti in the center back. That being said, I mean, they generated, nothing on offense, and so I'd much rather see him, be further up the pitch. One shot on net is not going to, they're pretty much just playing not to lose when Basti's playing center back. So that's my complaint about that system. And I'd rather see Brandon Vincent out wide for Corrales. I don't think Corrales does enough positively out there. So
definitely the best game we saw was Schweinsteiger in the back. It was a recommitted side.
Yeah.
And you could see that maybe this was making it aware that some of the past games, the effort really wasn't there because they put in almost a full 90 today, and they really haven't been doing that for a lot of the season is what you're starting to realize. And is that them tuning out Paunovic? Is that tuning out each other because maybe they don't feel like they have enough quality to actually compete?
What else you got?
One last comment for Red Bull New York. They're 1 point back in the Supporter Shield race. That means top of MLS. Mm-hmm. They're currently playing it with Atlanta. Atlanta's in first, and they're second in all of MLS right now. So they got
a few game in hand, I believe. Right?
They're cooking out in gas.
Yeah.
The Fire, meanwhile, are 7 points out of the playoffs at this point.
Trending the wrong way.
The three teams in front of them also battling for the spots with about 2 or 3 games in hand each. Which means that we are behind the 8 ball massively when it comes to understanding what actual points are needed. It may be more than 7 after Toronto or New England go on a run. Orlando, probably not so much. Let's cover some other things. So Chicago have fallen now to 10th in the East.
Yep.
6 wins, 5 draws, 14 losses. New York, 15 wins, 2 draws, 6 losses. That's a top winning record right there versus the Chicago Fire, which is complete opposite.
You pretty much alluded to it. The season is basically over. Are they out of it? Not completely, but U.S. Open Cup's done, and it's going to be tough to get that playoff spot. I mean, lately we've been struggling to score goals. Back line has, we've been giving up goals. And I wonder now if you're going to see Pauno play some younger guys, like we saw Drew Connor get a start. Maybe we'll see some more young guys get some playing time. Katai sat, Nico sat. I wonder what that was about, but I wonder going forward you'll see him spread out that playing time a little bit. Maybe Georgie probably might get a start here coming up.
Definitely will, especially since he made the starting 18 or the match day 18. So one last comment though, with New York being in the second place, being the second best team in all of MLS, Chicago Fire right now are actually the third worst team in all of MLS. They're 21 out of 23 teams with only DC United and San Jose. DC United, who comes here at the end of the season with Wayne Rooney. That'll be fun.
And they have 6 games in hand or something. They played no games.
DC has a lot of games.
Yeah.
I think they played 19 games to the 25 of the Fire. That's 6 games in hand. They're probably really waiting for Wayne Rooney to come.
Sandbagging that schedule.
San Jose in last place with 23rd. So these are the 3 wooden spoon winners, potential challengers right here. Chicago, DC, San Jose. Mm-hmm. Colorado is basically tied with Chicago at the moment, but they have negative 9 goal differential to Chicago Fire's negative 14.
I think we were going to talk about this later in this episode, but I think it's a good time to transition to it. Just Pauno, the fact that Pauno's still around after losing the U.S. Open Cup, losing 7 or 8 games in a row, whatever it is. The fact that he's still here, I think he's going to stay.
He hasn't got a contract yet.
I think if NR sacked him, I think that would be a big indictment on himself. So, and that's probably the reason he's keeping him around, and probably Nelson understands that this roster was incomplete. So maybe Pauno has another year. So, but I think he's going to finish the season out.
The mentality is that he is going to finish the season. Is he going to be here to coach these guys next season? That is unknown. But what was known is that he went inside. They had a team meeting before this game, and they have totally. Knowing that this season's shot and the all competition shot, they had to get everybody back on the same page. Yeah. And apparently he was able to do so. He talked about it by saying that they set new goals.
Yes.
It was a little alarming for me to hear that he was saying, players are recommitted to, but I'm asking, where was that 4 months ago? They're recommitted to the cause, but it's literally the day after the season ends.
But then he clarified how
set new goals.
It really was just about setting new goals. And so that's what I said earlier. Maybe they're going to start seeing some younger guys playing, some people playing for spots for next year. Just building that team chemistry with Edwards, Hassler, and the new guys. So,
Also having a stronger mentality, having guys who are having a full team of guys who are committed to making this team better. And maybe that's why Ellis and Chani were cut unceremoniously earlier at the beginning of the week. Pauno kind of hinted at it. He said, who is left is who you can rely on, is exact quote from Pauno. Who is left is who you can rely on. And right after, Guillermo astutely asked about Ellis and Chani being gone and how would that shake up the locker room. He said, and Pauno was saying, yes, it absolutely shakes up the locker room. Is it connected?
Well,
not really. the changes aren't necessary.
Can I interject here real quick?
But okay, yeah.
You missed one important detail about Pauno saying that he left the door open. It says if you're not going to buy in,
he drew a line in the sand.
Exactly. Yeah, he left the door open and said, "Hey, if you're not going to buy into these new goals, there's the door." But I mean, who knows? Did Chani and Ellis walk out the door? I mean, that's kind of that's unfair for us to say. That's merely speculation.
They might have mentally walked out the door beforehand, and so they wanted to shake up the team.
But Pauno apparently did say that to the team, and
nobody walked
responded.
out.
Yeah, he said no one walked out, so apparently they responded.
Well,
to it.
what we did see was a couple days before that Chani and Ellis get cut, and that he does speak about it. He says that the changes were not connected, but in the same breath, he essentially says they were connected because he was just saying that he essentially said both of those guys weren't committed.
Yeah, well, he first said
to the team.
when Guillermo asked him the question, he said no, not really. That was it wasn't like a definitive
No, not really.
No, yeah, it wasn't definitive.
He didn't. At one hand, he kind of put some dirt on the fire, but on the same hand, he let the fire basically keep going because he said right in the same breath that that just they weren't committed. Basti at CB, we talked about it better than last time.
Yeah.
Pauno said he was fantastic. Anything left to talk about here?
But real quick, last thing I have on that presser, it was a 10-minute press conference. If you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend it. Very candid. Pauno looked very mentally exhausted. Just did that energy. It can't actually later in the press conference, you started seeing him get that energy back and that optimism back.
Oh, but he was tired. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's starting to look. The season's wearing on him, and gosh, when you keep losing and losing and losing, it's just you're just in this funk. You're always in this funk. He's a competitor in that locker room. They want to win, so they're starving for that. So, but anyways, what else you got, James?
MDL and Georgie returned. MDL made it onto the field. They're probably only going to be about 80 or 90% going forward, and if they could get anywhere close to 80 or 90% at the end of the season, that's the goal right now because they're not going to finish 100%. But the goal is for next season, and probably for the rest of these guys too.
Well, that's what Pauno said, and Pauno said, unfortunately, that the way the game went, Georgie was supposed to go on, but since they went down a goal, Georgie was unable to find the pitch for his debut. So
speaking to Pauno being tired, same with Katai and same with Nico, who were just emotionally drained. A lot of the guys were emotionally drained.
That's what he said.
He had to pick and choose, who he could rest and give him a chance to kind of recover mentally. And he picked Nico and Katai because those guys are very important for the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And of course, a lot of people are very important to the MLS to the end of the season. But Pauno himself looked emotionally drained, like he needed a game off. Maybe this is a game for Eric Gehrig to just be like, "Hey, coach, I'll take this one. Take a game off so you could reset." Maybe that's not a bad idea, but Pauno, of course, probably doesn't want to. He doesn't want to open the door to Eric. But at the same time, you could trust your team. If you trust Nelson and you trust Eric, they're not going to take the team away from you. Maybe a game off was going to be helpful for Pauno too because he looked mentally drained.
Well, and our kind of reset the lineup a little bit with Ellis being waived, Chani being waived, essentially let go for nothing. Apparently, if another MLS team picked him up, they would be off the books for their salary, but they're still on books for their salary.
For now.
So they're gone. And then I believe Campos was loaned out, but I was confused.
To Indy 11.
I was confused because I thought he was hurt.
He was at the game.
And then I saw him at the game. And then who else? Elliot Collier was also loaned out to
Indy.
Indy
11.
Nicholas Del Greco was loaned out to Tulsa. And then, like I said, those other two players were let go. So the kind of a different vibe going on in that kind of, locker room right now with Georgie and MDL in there and Hassler and Edwards in there. So it's probably a little bit different of a dynamic right now.
Del Greco needed to get some time. Pauno said that he hasn't been playing for a long time. He's out of game shape a little bit. He needs to get some of that match day fitness. And there's a good chance that he could come in for the final few games of the season and get some game time. We'll see what he actually looks like. But we should be able to take a look if you have MLS Plus or something. You should be able to see some USL games if you want to peek in at how Del Greco's doing over at Tulsa or how Collier and Campos are going to get on at Indy. Some fans of Indy were very excited about Collier coming down. Campos' loan was probably more so for international spot purposes. Just to free up an international spot. Probably that's why you saw him up here. He's probably training. He's probably got to get some rehab going. But it's good to see him not terribly injured, and hopefully he can continue on with producing and getting better as he goes for the season.
Ellis was a trialist, correct?
Ellis was a trialist.
Chani, we traded
300 TAM
quite
for.
A bit of 300 TAM for Chani.
I think around, yeah.
Wow.
So and his contract.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That's what you get for depending on trialists.
All right, what else you got in there? Roster shaking up.
Let's go talk about the roster real quick. So Salignac kind of a meh game. You would.
Are you going back to the game?
Let's go back to the game.
I don't even think we have to go back to the game. We already moved on from that.
Are you sure? You don't want to talk about how the players did? I would just want to mention this. I thought Drew Connor had a good game in the middle. And really, I'm like, why is this kid not been playing? This guy might be better than Brant Bronico. With his level of play. And he's only played a handful of games. Brant Bronico's played way more, and really, he's set back Drew Connor's development. I feel like that's an MLSer right there in your lineup that you've been holding back, a hidden gem that people have seen and known about, but has been stuck in Pauno's doghouse, which is a question mark, too. So some person, Doug was saying, great Twitter follow for Fire, he's pretty darn knowledgeable, he has great opinions, too, and he was saying that having a doghouse is kind of an amateurish coach move tactic.
Well, Brant Bronico really is the only young player that developed quite a bit this year. Brandon stunted by playing center back.
No Campbell.
Lillard didn't play very much. Campbell's played selectively. Who else? Help me. Well, Campos has developed a little bit. Collier's got some time to develop a little bit.
Collier kind of went like kind of a little flat line.
Who else?
But didn't go.
Daniel hasn't developed. So, I mean, really, there hasn't been too many young players that
Daniel Johnson
developed this
year
besides perhaps Brant.
Yes.
Brant Bronico might be the only young player that took a step forward. And I think Brandon Vincent...
Drew still has... We get to see more from Drew.
Well, there's 9 games. There's 9 games left. So hopefully, a
little more Drew.
The season, kind of lost. Maybe those younger guys will get some PT. We'll see.
Who was playing right back today? Nico Hauser, kind of a meh game, but also didn't stand out in a negative way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think he's a solid upgrade on that right back, and we need to just give him more time to get his feet under him. Kappelhoff, Schweini, Vincent had solid games. Vincent had an okay game, and probably you understand why Vincent's more trusted than maybe a Campbell going forward, and Dean's making the match to 18.
I don't know why Dean's even making the 18. Again, it stinks that having Dean. There's no way Pauno's gonna put Dean in. And it would have been nice if you had Campbell. You could put you could have subbed out one of your center mids and then pushed Basti up into the center mid.
But speaking of weird subs, they subbed Edwards off in the 61st minute, brought Nico on, left Lucho on, and let Lucho go over to where Raheem was. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
Raheem's offers so much more anything.
Than
pace,
Lucho.
Talent, ideas, imagination. I saw a ball that came right towards Lucho. Lucho didn't even make an effort to go get it. And immediately I'm like, Raheem actually would have maybe gotten that ball or at least challenged and put the guy who's making the play in a position where he's going to have to make a different kind of play. Instead, it sets up a chance for the other side going away. And when you have this laziness on offensive defense like Lucho is showing, that's what you get with these results.
Well, and that goes back to Pauno not making some of the right decisions. I mean, he just, I don't know. I don't know. So his selection is sometimes poor. His tactics are sometimes poor. I mean, we talked about this off air. I mean, we've seen Columbus play, 3 times this year? We know how they play. We've seen Atlanta, 3 to 4 times? We know their style.
Houston has the same style of play. They play every game.
I've watched this team. I've watched every game this year and still can't tell you what style this team has. I mean, they're just, I mean, I don't know. It's like, you don't know. I don't know how to describe this team just because their tactics change from game to game. Their formation changes. Their selection changes. A lot of times it feels like they're focusing on trying not to lose, and so it's just. I mean, not having that continuity has to be tough. I mean,
it grows harder for us to defend Pauno game in game out when he's doing these things. They were talking about it on the radio about the Cubs and how Joe Madden keeps switching these lineups, and even a team which is as talented top to bottom as the Cubs is struggling with an inconsistent lineup. Now translate that to soccer. That translates to every sport. An inconsistent lineup translates to inconsistency in results. And inconsistent tactics that Pauno is, he says, it's a dynamic process that changes game to game, opponent to opponent. And I think that is the wrong way to go about it. And there was a time where I'm like, maybe it's okay. Maybe you do want to do that because maybe that's the level of talent that he has. And he's forced into this position. He's forced to live soccer in the sink or swim, flight or fight moment by Nelson's decisions. But then you also see Houston, who has so much less talent to deal with and to deploy throughout its entire lineup. But they're deploying the same tactics, the same lineup, the same formation week in, week out, and that's why they're having maybe a little bit more success than the Fire. And this juxtaposition of tactics from week to week, I'm over it, and I think it's the wrong way, and that's why I think it's time to move on from Pauno, because if he thinks that's the answer, I totally disagree because if you look at any successful coach, you know their style of play.
Exactly.
Pauno has zero. You have no idea.
Bear halter. I mean, here.
You have no idea of the style of play.
So, yeah, I mean, I hate to use Football Manager as an example, but I mean, they show you how synchronized your squad is with that formation.
And it
right?
goes up.
Hold on, James. So think about it. I mean, if you're playing the same formation game in and game out, you just have more experience, more knowledge, and you're exposed to more scenarios in that formation. So you're better at it. You're smarter with it.
Offense
changing a formation and tactics each game. I mean, it's new. It's kind of compared to like a Chicago quarterback, Jay Cutler, having a couple new offensive coordinators each year. I mean, you don't have time to learn an offense and system, and you're changing, and it's just new, and it's just. It's nice having that continuity and the game plan. So.
You'll never know where your teammates are if you're switching week to week,
that being
year
said,
to year.
Who was their coach? Jesse Marsh? Who was their coach last year?
Jesse Marsh?
No,
I thought Marsh was leaving.
Who?
No, he's still here.
God, who was New York head coach? Ex-Chicago Fire guy. Wasn't it Jesse Marsh?
Armes. Chris Armes.
He gave Pauno some props. I mean, he said... Pauno is a well-coached team. They're hard to play.
Every coach says that about Pauno's team. Because he is switching his tactics up, they are hard to play against. Pauno has made a team that probably is not good enough harder to play against. And that is a credit to Pauno.
And they're playing not to lose, and I don't like that.
But on the flip side of not playing not to lose, and on the flip side, he's been forced into this way. That's why it's hard to defend him, but also it's okay to defend him with the idea that Nelson is just not giving this guy enough tools to do what he really wants to do. So he's forced to make do with a lineup that is just not good, and he makes them into a wall. And the other teams notice that he makes them difficult to play off. So us saying that you need a more consistent lineup, I think that's true. I think you do need that, and I think that you'll see more success from the boys. But on a week-to-week basis for this particular season, because of its kind of they never had enough to fight to begin with. You have to patch holes, be inventive, get creative, and Pauno did just that this season.
Last thing we'll end with, Stadium. Stadium was packed yesterday. I was very surprised. I wonder they must have gave some tickets away, had some Groupon sales, or hired some crisis actors or something. But no, the stadium, it was packed. We were floored.
I thought it was going to be empty.
We thought it was going to be empty. At times, the energy was there, not really directed, but
unorganized.
There was some energy, unorganized. They did the wave for about 10 minutes, which, it's kind of distracting, but, I guess as long as the fans are having fun. I mean, personally, it's distracting.
I find it off-putting,
and I'm trying to watch the game, but
I think it's an insult to the it's an insult to the game because people are more worried about jumping up than watching what the entertainment on the field.
But they don't know. I mean, they don't know. I'm sure that's a lot of their first. Probably a lot of the first soccer games for a lot of those fans.
Maybe a lot of Groupons.
So if they're having fun and it makes them come back, maybe that's an okay thing. But I'm with you. It is distracting.
There wasn't much to make you come back, though, because you go to an Atlanta game.
It was boring. That game was boring as heck.
And because there's no organized support, that actually does make the game boring. At least that you go to a Bears game, you got the board that's saying, "Bear, sing this dang song, this Bear Down song right now." And then you go to a Wolves game, and you got the people on the projector saying, "Oh, here's Godzilla with We Will Rock You" or something.
It shows how important organized support is. It's really important to have those.
And since we don't have that for a soccer game, you don't have the ability to put stuff on the Jumbotron for a soccer. You just don't. You need the organized support to make the noise and to control the songs and to have the. Why don't we have a Chelsea? Why can't everybody knows Chelsea Dagger in this Chicago? Why can't everybody go,
our own.
I know they need their own, but I'm just saying there's no creativity. And also, when random casuals come to the game, Section 8 and Sector Latino do very little to make the rest of the stadium feel involved. They're like, hey, we know these cool songs, you don't.
Yeah.
Let us lead.
Yeah. That's an interesting point.
Let us lead the way. And you got to get the rest of the crowd involved. Let them sing a song like Seven Nation Army. You're
right. It would be nice to have just, because we said this before, they have great songs, their chants are great, but it would be nice, to have a few things that could appease the casuals.
To get everybody involved. Yeah. The only way they get everybody involved is going to go east side.
Yeah.
Who's the best? And that's the only time they get the whole crowd involved in one thing. Otherwise, it's just them being, oh, look at us. Look at us. We're the conductors here. All eyes on us. But it shouldn't be that way. Look at Manchester United. Look at Atlanta United, who's been doing this. Look
Orlando
at Seattle.
City.
Look at Orlando.
City.
They have an organized support who make it feel like the whole team supporters are supporting and not just like a certain, crazy ultra section. And that needs to change. Section 8, I'm sorry.
They definitely need to be friendlier to outsiders. I mean, that has always been one critique.
It's not about friendliness to outsiders. It's about getting everybody around to embrace this culture, to put energy into the game. And nobody is able to put energy when they're singing La Máquina Roja. As much as we love that song.
It's a great one.
We love it. But that's what I'm saying. If you go to a Chicago game as a casual, which is 10 to 15,000 people, maybe 20. Yeah. There's only 5,000 people who probably know La Máquina Roja. Yeah. So you're keeping 20,000 people out of the loop.
All you're trying to say is you need to somehow recruit the casual fans.
No, I'm not saying you need to recruit. I'm saying you need to change your style. I'm saying you need to be more accepting and more creating of an environment like Atlanta's. And they have the ability to create an environment, but they choose to keep an environment that is very exclusive to support and very exclusive from you can't sing the songs. We're the ones who know. Yeah. We're the ones who know the songs. We'll sing it. You just cheer for us when we call on you. When we ask you for help. No, it shouldn't be that. It should be all game. Or ole, 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 ole. There are songs that everybody knows and everybody has the ability to sing to if they've never been to a soccer game in their life. And the Section 8 has never, ever tapped into it. And I'm upset with them. I'm upset with them.
Relax.
Too. At the same time, we need them. We need Section 8 so badly.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
We need the horns of Sector Latino. We need the drums of Sector Latino. Yeah. We need the organized support that all those guys provide. And you know what? The problem also comes from the front office being incredibly tone deaf. Incredibly tone deaf in their handling of the situation, where you see no other front office handling it as bad. You saw Philadelphia figuring it out with their ultras. You saw Orlando figuring it out with the big hubbub between LA Galaxy and LA LFC fans, and they figured that out. Actually, by the way, that person who figured it out in LA is an ex-Chicago Fire employee. These guys have the know-how and the soft hands to be able to handle these situations. While Nelson's got freaking hands like a rock. Who's the Thing from Fantastic Four? He's like, Rah! He's just tearing everything down like Chivas.
Okay. All right, we're getting long on this, but yeah.
And Nelson, you can fix yourself. Okay. You can save face. Realize you did wrong. Come out and accept it. And change your tune. Look at what Pauno's doing. Look at what this team's doing. All these guys are proving that they have the ability to adapt. Nelson does not. And I got to see some adaptation from Nelson if he's going to stay on for another 3 years. Come on, Nelson. Your rest of your team is able to do this. Why aren't you? And you have to come together and be like, you know what? We made a mistake in how we handled this. The Section 8 and Sector Latino know they made mistakes too. They've admitted it. But we have the people who are in the authority position who's unwilling to admit that they made a mistake. And you know, it takes two to tango. And everybody wants to be a winner here. Everybody wants to support the Fire. That is what we all want at the end of the day. And if you guys can come together and get that puts everybody in the seats and everybody on the field and everybody who works there in a much better position to changing this culture and getting it going in a proper trajectory instead of just wallowing like
in this negative funk.
Wallowing in this negative crap.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching. James just went on a rampage there. Comment down below what you guys think. Really, I think what we're all saying is we just want everyone on the same page. ELE, everybody, love everybody. Let's get behind our club and support our club and, watch some beautiful football on the pitch and get rid of these L's. I mean, I'm done with losing. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day and go Fire.